All right, so on this episode, I have Christine Schoellhorn, who is the president of TI Communities and started the company with 4 people and grew it overnight to 89 employees, scaled the unit count, grew like crazy with her hair on fire, as she puts it, and has managed this company with excellence and efficiencies. And she pulls the curtain back to show us some of what she does as a leader to get the most out of the company and her people and ultimately engage and take care of residents. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you pay attention because there's some great leadership questions that she shares along the way. All right, today I've got a very special guest, Christine Schoellhorn from TI Communities, and we're going to be talking everything property management. Christine, thanks for jumping on this with me.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure, Ian. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we met like maybe a year ago or so. Tisa
Yeah,
connected us, and I don't know about you, but I feel like we hit it off right off the bat. It was like
yeah.
a lot of synergy in terms of the way we talk, how we think about things. And so when I was looking for somebody to talk about property management, you were the first person that came to mind.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So give us kind of a snapshot for people who don't know you or don't know TI Communities. What do you guys do? How'd you get into the business? What do you focus on? What's it look like present day?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's really busy present day. So I have been doing property management for 33 years. So I'm 1,000 years old. I launched TI Communities 8 years ago, actually 8 years ago, August. So we just had our 8-year anniversary.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
And when
Yeah,
you say launch, that was from scratch, right? Like it did not exist
it
previously.
did not exist
Okay.
previously. And prior to launching this company, I ran about 40,000 units for another company. And I'd been there for 4 or 5 years, kind of built their management company up. And then before that, I was at this little tiny company called Graystar. And
I think I've heard of it.
yeah, and I kind of launched Graystar West with a couple business partners, and we
Okay.
grew Graystar West from about 1,500 units to about 15,000. So, starting management companies or kind of growing management companies has been really how I've spent a lot of time in my career.
Hmm.
This one has been very unique and very different. We are a social impact fund. That's our ownership group. And so when I launched this company, I accepted the position in August. We opened our doors in October. And so it was a very, very short timeline to get everything in place to run a business. And we went from having 4 employees to 89 employees overnight. And yeah, and we run this business a little bit different than a typical property management company. We really focus on creating impact and, you know, in kind of traditional property operations, you have a little problem, it's okay, you just push the rent. You do a renovation, you create some other income streams, you push the rent, and that typically solves your problem. Here, it's really more about kind of the bigger picture, mitigating expenses and creating efficiencies instead of pushing rents because we like to maintain affordability. Now, we're not affordable housing, but we like to maintain affordability for our residents, which typically
Hmm.
means that we're, you know, for our we're workforce housing. So for our class of real estate, we kind of tail the market in rent and just provide some additional services to kind of create some of that social impact. So it's been
Mm.
a little bit of a wild ride. We are about 7,000 units today. When we opened our doors, we were 3,400 units. We built it up to 12,000. Then we sold off a fund, and so we dropped down to just under 5,000. We have been building back up since then, and we are back in acquisition mode for the third time since I've been here.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
So you said just north of 7,000 units right now. What has that ramp up been like in the last 12 months? How many units were you at a year ago today?
Oh my gosh. So we have added about, 3,500 units, I would say, probably in the last 12 months. So we launched our third fund. We bought our first assets in October of last year.
Okay.
And we've closed, I think, 8 deals. We're closing another one next week. And then we're closing another one in 2 weeks. And that will bring us up close to 9,000 units. Yeah.
Wow. What's a typical property that you guys have? Is it 200 units, 500 units? It's all across the country, right?
Yeah, it's all across the country. So our numbers are a little skewed. I have one property that's 1,155 units, so it kind of skews that
Sure.
average number. So with that asset in the mix, we're a little over 300 units. You back that out, and
Okay.
we're high twos
Got it.
on average.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy smokes. And how many employees do you have now?
We have about 150.
How many of those report to you?
Some days it feels like 150, but it's only I only have I have six direct reports. I'm a big believer that you should never. I personally believe you should never carry more than seven direct reports. But like to me, the sweet spot is 5 to 6.
Okay. And are all of them in person?
No, no. I have my facilities guy who's incredible. He's based in Chicago, and my VP of accounting, she is based in California. And then my other operators that report to me are based here.
Have you always done the remote management side, or is that newer with TI?
It's newer with TI from a corporate perspective. Like we have more corporate people that I would say are remote. 2020 really kind of changed a lot of things. We're actually just kind of climbing back from some of those remote positions now. But like at Steadfast, I was in 20 states. And so we had a ton of remote positions.
Sure. Okay. I feel like that's something that I get a lot of questions around because it's something that people do or know that they need to do, but it's like they have no idea how to do it. It's so much
Yeah.
easier to conceptualize all the in-person stuff, and there's so much ambiguity or unknown when it comes to the remote side. How do you think about that? Do you go, hey, with my people that are in person and my people that are remote, do you have two completely different leadership styles with them, or is it synonymous?
No, I think it's definitely two different styles, but I would say it's my philosophy has really changed, I think, in the last couple of years.
Hmm.
Originally, like with COVID, a lot of things moved remote that hadn't been remote positions in the past. And I think for a couple of years, we were good with that. And, having people, as long as they were the right people, having them kind of spread out all around, the US. I think my philosophy is a little bit different now, just based on the needs of my organization. We don't have scale in our markets because we're spread so thin. And so our culture and having that consistency is really important. And
Mm,
because my company is so small, all of my people wear a lot of hats. And so, today you may be working on an acquisition and a lot of the things that come along with acquisitions. And tomorrow you might be auditing payables or doing something along that line. And what I've found is when people are here in the office, I think we have better culture engagement
mhm.
and better camaraderie that is really difficult to create, kind of like what we're creating right now, I think, on a regular basis. For
Sure.
those people that I do still have that are in remote positions, I try to bring them to our corporate office at least on a quarterly basis,
Mhm.
just so that they can feel that and hopefully empower that same feeling on site and in their own areas.
Yeah. How do you stay in alignment with those people that are remote or maybe it's not you, maybe it's your regionals. How do they stay in alignment with the people that are boots on the ground at each property? Where is it a KPI metric? Hey, this tells me what's going on. Is it frequent conversations? How do you make sure you don't get bogged down in one over the other?
I think it's definitely a combination of all of that. I also think so. To me, the regional manager's role is hands down the most important role in the organization because they are the connector between the corporate culture and our on-site teams. And I think it's really important for the regionals to I think it's important for everyone to embody culture, but I think it's really important for the regionals to embody it at such a different level and also like know everyone's story. If you know their story and you engage in their success, I think that inherently provides that culture inculcation that I think is missing a lot of the time.
Yeah, they're the glue, right? They're the
Yeah.
ones that are holding it all together. Like
Yeah.
you said, bridging the gap between the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. We often see that there are when we do like operational work in a real estate firm, we often see there's two primary bottlenecks
Yep.
There's an information bottleneck and there's a decision-making bottleneck.
Yep.
And typically it is team members reaching up for decision-making
Mhm.
and leaders reaching down for information. Not always, but typically. How have you seen that play out, or how do you mitigate against that to make sure that you don't have those single points of failure or just lack of transparency or communication?
I think we've created a lot of those failure points. And I think, like, I know that we're working really hard to empower people right now. And I think, originally this company is really small. We don't have a lot of scale, and people do wear a lot of hats. One of the things I think always throughout my career, it's like, what can we take off site? What can we take off, the teams on site so that they can be more productive, they can give better customer service, all of those things that move the needle for us.
Hmm.
And I think we've taken that a step too far in some areas. And so by taking certain things, certain responsibilities off site, we've also taken away that accountability and ownership of certain things. Like
What are some examples of that?
reviews.
Okay.
We have a system where our corporate team will respond. We have a company that responds to any review that's like 3 stars or below. And then 4 and 5, the property manager and the marketing team, they are like to work together to respond to these reviews. The marketing team has to like approve it. And so what it's created is it feels like our marketing team they're responding to these reviews that they don't have any information about. And so the on-site team, they lean in towards the marketing team instead of just like engaging with the resident. And then there's so many conversations around like, you don't want to be defensive and this is how you want to respond, instead of just, or you don't want to apologize for something that you didn't do. And it's like, wait. How about you just apologize for the experience? Like, I'm really sorry that was your experience. And let me tell you what we're going to do.
Mm.
Instead of, and just kind of bringing that ownership back to our team, but educating them why it's really important to engage like that with your customer.
Mm.
And I mean, I could probably think of 25 examples of most of them are marketing related. I think we got to the point where we were so afraid of what people were going to put out there that instead of spending more time on teaching and training, we put too many roadblocks in place. And so I think we are in the position today, especially with like chat and all of the wonderful AI tools out there that can really help you generate marketing messaging, that we're just trying to kind of push that back to our teams and give them more power and account and responsibility, ownership.
Mhm. What are some of those things that you're bullish on, that you're like, this 100% should be in their court, they should be responsible for?
Driving traffic, teaching their team, a lot of training things I think they should be
Mm.
responsible for. Anything about the leasing process, I think that our managers should be ultimately responsible for. And if not necessarily having all the tools to maybe push traffic or answer a lot of the questions, at least having ownership enough in the process where they're like, hey, I have a traffic problem, or hey, I want to try this, or I want to go make a TikTok video, and just thinking out of the box so that they really own the process.
Interesting. How do you balance that with the consistency side? My guess is like, because you're in so many different markets, you actually need some of the nuanced insight for what works in this market versus what works in this market. But I'm
Right.
sure there's also some fundamentals that across the board you want to make sure the entire organization is maintaining.
Oh, absolutely. And so I think it's really about clear communication, right? When things go sideways, Ian, what's it always because of? It's always because you haven't.
Expectations,
Yes, exactly.
communication. Yep.
Communication. You haven't either set the clear expectation or followed up, or like asked, asked for the right feedback. And so I think setting that expectation is really important on the front end, and then just, checking in to make sure it's being met. I think there are definite, depending upon what it is and what the audience is, there are different kind of controls that we have in place. Something that may go out to the entire market might have more controls than, say, communication to like one resident, or how you get your newsletter approved, or things like that. So I think it just really depends on what that audience looks like.
Interesting. Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my next question, is like, how do you maintain quality control across different KPIs that you're measuring across the entire portfolio, where we do need consistency for this information in order to have it be able to feed up.
Yeah.
And some of that may be a little bit more like SOP standardized, but how do you maintain the quality control aspect when you're not there physically in person every day?
It's making sure that you have for us, it's making sure that we have the right auditing tools in place and that people really are inspecting what they expect. Now, there are certain KPIs that jump off the page if there's no quality control, right? All of your financial metrics, it's like, oh, I can see my trend, or, oh, I saw my ActBud and that doesn't look very good. But I think some of the
and are you reviewing those with, like, are you having your property managers look at those, or the regional managers looking at those? Are you doing it with them? Are you teaching them how to interpret it, where to look?
Yeah, that's such a great question.
How do you get them up to speed? Because it feels like you're describing a very high level, proficient property manager that I feel like not a lot of people have that.
No. Do you want to know what let's see, today is Tuesday? Monday? Tuesday? Monday. Today's Monday. Yeah. So I'm like, on Thursday, I had financial review training with new managers in Colorado myself, because I just wanted to, kind of show them that, like, what I look at. But it's really important. So again, small shop, everyone wears a lot of hats. That really does land with our regional managers. But it's my responsibility to make sure that my VPs are trained and can teach the regionals if there's a gap, and then it's their responsibility to kind of ensure that those managers are getting trained, and if there's a gap there, that somebody can step in, which is why I was involved last week in one of our portfolios. Is there was a gap, they needed some help, and I love financials, and so I was like, let me do it. I want to get in front of these managers because that's really fun, and it's also a great opportunity to ask them, okay, so what's working? What's not working? What tools did you have at your last company that we don't have here? What tools do you have here that you love? Which tools do you hate? What do you think we should be doing different? And I think that that's also, it's such a gift to have the opportunity to ask your team those types of questions. And I always learn something every time I have one of those conversations.
Okay, take me back big picture for a second. You guys are bringing new properties on board at a rapid pace. How do you stay lockstep with capital and acquisitions, who I'm sure also probably have their own challenges in staying in sync at this kind of a pace? How do you also make sure that you're coming in and have adequate time to prepare and onboard new properties, not just in like staying in the loop, but tactically, like, oh shoot, we got to go hire 10 people at this property that we've never even set foot on, and we've got 30 days to do it, or
oh my gosh, what a wonderful 30 days, Ian. Oh my goodness. It's a lot of communication. So one of the reasons our ownership group, one of the benefits is we can close cash on all of our deals, and then we finance them after we close. And so that's a huge benefit. And then a shortened DD timeline. So my company, we do the due diligence for the ownership group, and we have about a week to get our due diligence done, and then about another week to get all of those reports, tied up in a real pretty bow with a recommendation on whether we think this is a good deal or not a great deal. And then during that process, we usually go on site with an access agreement. So they are negotiating the PSA while we are on site doing the due diligence. And so we just kind of expanded our timeline from DD kind of sign off by the investment committee to when we close, because that was as fast as a week. And that's not enough time to get on site.
I would imagine you're going to have massive turnover if that's the case.
Yeah. And, we start hiring kind of in the background. Obviously, as soon as we go on site, we can tell if a deal is going to get approved or not approved. And almost all of our deals that we do due diligence on are approved, because the acquisitions team, they do a great job kind of on the front end. Plus, like, I'll sign off on expenses and underwriting before we even get to the DD stage. A lot of that stuff is already buttoned up. But now oftentimes, it's usually about a 2.5 week, maybe 3 week timeline from the day we find out the deal is going to happen to the day we step on site and take it over. And so, but I've been doing transitions and acquisitions for probably 20 years. At Steadfast, we grew from 14,000 units to 30,000 units in 3 years. We closed 3 deals a month, every month for the first 2 years I was there. And then obviously Greystar was very similar. So
You're
you have
just
to
like, yeah, this is normal. Isn't this what
it's
everybody
fine.
does?
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. When it's difficult is when we're entering a new market. And with this fund, Fund 3, we've entered a new market. This is the deal we closed 2 weeks ago was another new market, which was, I think, our fourth new market in this fund. And that's when it's really difficult because you just don't have, you don't have bench strength. You don't have people to pull from. You don't have people at a sister property. It's like, hey, come hang out over here, lease some apartments over here while we have no property management system. But I think for the most part, our process really is humming. And it's about communication. So the second we tie up a deal, we start having weekly meetings with all of the department heads and everybody understands what their responsibility is. And the most critical piece is usually the piece that we don't have much time on, and that's the staffing. Because you can't talk to people until your PSA is executed and we have permission to step on site and interview.
And are you guys doing all of that in-house? Do you use recruiters? Is this wow. Okay.
No, we have a recruiter that works as one of our employees.
Internally?
Yeah.
Okay. And so are you having all of the managers do all of their own hiring?
Not for a new acquisition. Now, for a stabilized asset, our recruiter will place all the ads, do all the ad sourcing. But the way we have her position structured is we will tell her what our priority positions are. So like my VPs will huddle together and say, okay, these are my high priority positions. These are my high priority positions. And then they dial it down to 3 or 4 positions every week. And that's what our recruiter, where she'll actually set up the interviews, do the interviewing. Other than that, the managers have access to the system we use and they can go in and they can pull down applicants and things like that.
Interesting. So you talked about the due diligence. When you guys are doing the due diligence portion, when you go on site, when you're looking at a property, what are the things like, where do you hone in to where, if you can only look at 2 or 3 things or 2 or 3 metrics, what are you honing in on to say it has to pass this?
Capital. Always. It's capital. What are my capital outlays going to be? What condition is this asset in? This sounds silly. I spend a lot of time looking at wood and identifying if we have like wood rot issues, because that tells me like one story. But I really do spend a lot of time on the capital side as far as planning, because that's really the only thing that makes your underwriting go sideways. If you are looking at the right market reports, you know what the market's going to do. Like we bought a couple deals recently in Austin. One of the ones that we are closing on next week is in Austin. Austin is a challenging market, but you underwrite it to know, okay, the next 2 years are going to be rough. And then the following 3 years are going to be great because you're going to come out of it. And, Austin is Austin. But what would really like train wreck my underwriting is if I buy a deal in Austin and then I find out that I have an extra $500,000 in capital because I didn't realize that we had a huge termite problem, or I didn't realize that underneath that drywall was a whole host of other issues. And so for me, it's just focusing on the things that move the needle. And then it's always the people test, right?
What do you mean by that?
It's like, I don't know. How does it smell? How does it taste? How does it feel? Are they, are they making eye contact with me? Are they all brand new? If they're all brand new, it's probably because the seller is hiding something and they don't want those people to like answer the questions. Is the manager out the day you do due diligence? There's probably a reason. How is the team communicating with their existing residents? They're going to tell you like all these things are great, but then somebody walks in the door and if they don't even stand up and say hello, that's going to tell me everything I need to know. So I do a lot of ear hustling when I'm on site.
Ear hustling. I've never heard that phrase before.
Oh, really? Yeah. I ear hustle a lot.
I like that. This is awesome. How do you, from that regional perspective, when you are getting them to be the glue between corporate and the properties themselves, how do you get them to optimize for NOI? how do you get them to be like the asset manager that is taking care of the property as if it were their own, rather than, typically we see third party management isn't as effective or isn't as efficient. You see it pretty plainly in the numbers. How do you get them to internalize that like ownership mentality?
I think it's a lot of conversations, and all of those conversations focused on the things that move the needle. And that is, I mean, that's really how you impact NOI, in my opinion. And so, you know, I kind of bucket what are the things that are going to have the highest impact. And to me, it's occupancy, it's delinquency, and it's staffing. And so making sure that they're spending at least 80% of their time on those priorities. And so I ask that question all the time. Tell me what you did tell me what you did last week at Prescott Station. And, I get the story, and then it prompts me to ask additional questions. And then, we just get to kind of reframe how people are spending their time. But it's not just at the regional level, it's also at the VP level, because I don't sit on calls every week with the regional managers. I have to ensure that my team, my VPs, are having those same conversations. And
Yeah, give us quick context there. How many VPs, how many regionals?
so right now I have 5 regional managers, and I have two VPs that are primarily operations. So each of those 2 VPs has like one other something that rolls up to them, but operationally related. And so I have one that's really focused on all of our Texas markets, and then one that's focused on everything else. Now, them I spend a ton of time with. So we have one-on-ones every week, and then we just started having a team meeting, just the 3 of us together, really truly just to walk through different scenarios and different conversations, because I do think that there's a huge gap. And I think people tend to they spend time on things that they're really comfortable with. And for things like occupancy, in my business, we have what we call the 4 Ps. It's people, product, price, promotion. If you have an occupancy problem, it's one of those 4 things. And the last thing you should ever look at are your prices. It starts with your people, and you work your way backwards. And so people, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but people sometimes are not comfortable having hard conversations or setting clear expectations or really understanding like the why. Why isn't this working? And then kind of that follow-up question is, okay, great, what's next? And how do we solve it? And so what I've recently realized is the more time I spend on making sure that I'm having those conversations with my team, everything rolls downhill, good or bad. Everything that's working in this company, it's because I have a great team. Everything that's broken, it's on me. So spending more time.
What are some of your go-to questions?
It's always tell me the story. Always. Like, tell me the story. So whatever the issue is, okay, tell me what's getting in the way. Tell me your story. Tell me what's not working. What do you need that you don't have? It's always like, what's working, what's not working. And, if you had an open checkbook, who would you write the checks to? What would you make happen? Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We use this, we use a couple of similar questions. So we say, what's working, what's not working, what's missing, and what's confusing. Because whatever
that's the best. Yes.
And what it does, it gives us a clear action item. So when we say what's working, we know what to optimize. When we know what's not working, we know what needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
When we know what's missing, we know what needs to get added. And when we know what's confusing, we know what needs to get clarified. So it creates a clear action step for each one that now the manager knows, okay, this is what I'm doing with this information. Yeah.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah. Interesting. Any other go-to questions? Like, how do you do your one-on-ones? How do you start? How do you finish? What's the takeaway?
So I have my people bring to me like their list, and then I'll always have like a couple things on my list. Typically, well, these days mine are all related to things that move the needle, such as occupancy and staffing. Like, I would say that I probably spend in my one-on-ones 80% of my time with them talking about those 2 things, with the majority of it being around staffing, and not necessarily like, oh, do you have any open positions, but like walk me through walk me through your one-on-one with your regional manager. And then, with just follow-up questions. Okay, we talked about these 6 things. Great. And then what? Or, hey, I know 2 months ago I saw the email, you addressed these things. What kind of follow-up has been done since then? Or
Mm.
I was listening to a conversation about how to have a hard conversation. I was ear hustling, as one does. And it was so interesting to me because there was just such a huge gap that I was like, how do you not see that huge gap in kind of like where this is headed as you're teaching someone? And it was just a reminder that just because it's so clear to me, that it's not so clear to other people. And I think that a lot of us operate in that, well, I've just given you all the information, but did you have them explain it back to you and literally walk them through what those conversations look like? Because if this happened to be a VP talking to a regional manager that we know isn't comfortable having hard conversations. And so it was like step by step, like these are the 9 things you have to make sure that you address on the call. Not, hey, I'm going to lock arms with you. I'm going to sit on this call with you and I'm going to jump in if you get uncomfortable or the call's not headed in the right direction. And instead, it's like, here are your 9 things you need to do. This is someone that's not comfortable having hard conversations. How do you think those 9 things are going to get executed during that call? Do you think
What's an example of one of those 9 things?
It was all about performance. And
So these are like tactical, like,
exactly.
Hey, let's talk about this specific
issue and why you're not nailing it. Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of stuff do you measure? What do you look at? How frequently do you look at? And is there anything you force your team to measure and look at on a really consistent basis?
Yeah. So we have a bunch of kind of preset KPIs. So we have a bunch that are around financials, and then we have a lot of different KPIs around impact because, as I mentioned, we're a social impact firm. And so there's a correlation between people that attend one of our events and how long they stay, how much longer they stay in their apartment home, which is a reduction in turnover. There are a bunch of different things that we track as far as KPIs go.
What kind of events do those look like?
So we do every month we have events related to education. So we have something called Home Base at every one of our properties. It's Monday through Thursday. It's for 2 hours a day and it's really homework help. So if you come to the office or our hub, it's what we call our spaces, there is a resident professional there and they're going to help you with your homework and they're going to answer questions, or it's just like a place to kind of hang out and do your homework. It's not a place to hang out and play on your iPad. It's a place to hang out and do activities. We also have a literacy program so that if you don't have something to do but you just want to be in the space, we'll have different activities, crafts, things like that. Also, we also do monthly events around green and sustainability. So it could be something around recycling, but you're not going to get a bunch of people to come to a recycling event. So there's got to be like a food piece to it. Okay. But we do a lot of things around green and sustainability. And then we do stuff around healthcare. So we're really actively involved with the health agencies in most of our markets, WIC programs and space for those programs at a lot of our real estate. We do vitals, resources. It's really on the health side, it's really more about education and then connecting community resources with our residents. And then we also do community building. And, people stay longer if they feel like they're part of a community. And those events are, those are probably what you would think of when you think of your typical property management events, our community building events, like the pool parties and the DJs and the cookouts. And then we also do 4 events per year that are portfolio events where everyone is doing the same event at the same time. So we do like a national night out for the parents, and then we do like a back to school event. But each of those like quarterly events is always around a different one of our pillars.
Wow. Okay. And you're getting some kind of attendance at these, which is allowing you to then correlate that these people are renewing more frequently than the people who aren't attending.
Yeah, and so we track like household participation, like new acquisitions to that household participation, right? So unique household participation. We track the number of participants at each event, and then we also track like how many hours of events people participate in.
Mm.
And then we report on that on a quarterly basis, but we look at it on a monthly basis. So we have these positions, we have resident professionals that in exchange for a rent stipend, anywhere from 50% all the way up to 100%, they lead these programs. They're independent contractors but they're residents of our communities.
So they're part
And
of the community. They're embedded.
yes, yes. And so from day one, like before we even step onto a property, we've already scrubbed the demographics. We've identified the people that we want to reach out to, like right in the very beginning to see if they'd be interested in our resident professional program. And then we also have police officers that also are resident professionals. And what they give us is they give us like connectivity to like what's going on. They don't lock up our pools or patrol the properties. Not at all. It's a very different role. It's
Mm.
really about intel and information, especially given, I mean, some of the markets we're in are some like tougher markets, and it's really nice to have someone like that can let us know maybe give us information that we might not already or have like access to.
Got it.
But those things
Interesting.
are all, again, KPIs that we track,
Yeah.
and the engagement in our programs is very telling about the engagement with our like community directors and our residents. The programs that are wildly successful, they're wildly successful because we have the right resident professionals and we have the right level of engagement with our community team, our
Interesting. So
on-site.
you could run the same event maybe at two different properties, but because of the resident professional there, one might flop and one might absolutely flourish.
Yeah, or because of the manager, right?
Mm.
And the manager's support of the program.
Mm.
One might flop and one might flourish. Yeah.
Interesting. So engagement is a huge metric. What else are you looking at frequently?
Oh my gosh. Anything that's related to customer service. So, I could talk on and on and on about all the new cool things out there that are changing our industry. And also, it's the fundamentals that we have to be doing a good job at. And so, like customer service. So, my regionals are required to listen to phone calls. And that gets incorporated into the bonuses that are paid on a quarterly basis with the teams. I spot check phone calls, but it's not like I don't listen to like a certain amount every, month, but I can assure you I listen to phone calls every month,
Mm.
all over the board. So anything related to customer service. So you have ratings and reviews, you have like social postings, we have the phone calls. We look at our like leads are really big for us in our industry. And you can only lease apartments if people are coming to look at them, right? And
Mhm.
so there are a lot of like lead attribution reports that we measure. And then but I look at trends probably more than anything else, and that's really what I want kind of my entire team to be looking at. Is revenue going up or down? Why? Our expenses going up or down? Why? And just really understanding what the numbers are telling you. So just asking
Mm.
a lot of questions. And then each position has their own kind of checklist or dashboard or metric that they are responsible for tracking. And then it's all of our responsibilities to inspect what we inspect and spot check.
Mm. Interesting. Is there anything that maybe in one market you hone in on, or maybe was surprising? Like, man, in this market, this KPI tells me everything, but in this market, it doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, I think that our markets are very polarizing these days because the markets have like very different challenges. So I have an asset in Oakland that's in lease up, and that like the Oakland, there are a lot of challenges in the Oakland market. That is the only actual affordable deal that we have, and market surveys like the market info, like the actual comp information there is really, 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 really important. And that is like the first thing I look at or the team looks at because things change so quickly there. It's also a very highly competitive market. the regulatory challenges that we have in Seattle and Colorado are very different compared to anything that you would ever find in like a Texas. And so really understanding what those things are in the different markets, how long is it taking to evict? Like you would think that that's like not even a conversation that you still need to have today, given that 2020 was 5 years ago. But it is in certain markets, there is a huge, like there's still such a backup. In DC, there's a backup and it can take, 6 or 8 months. Or, in Seattle, if you miss one thing, it can take 3 years to evict somebody. And so just really understanding all of the different challenges in each of those markets will really tell you what you have to really focus on. Like there are certain markets where like I have somebody in my office literally auditing, like spot checking the notices, like what would typically be a 3-day notice, but because we're Fannie or Freddie, it's a 30-day notice to pay rent or quit, like to make sure that everything is perfect on it because of like certain challenges in certain markets.
For like a compliance sake, you're saying?
For a compliance sake, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But again, it's really so important to know what those challenges are in each of the markets. I mean, I still get surprised every once in a while, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that we should be honing in on this, or that should be a KPI that we should be tracking. Surprise. Those aren't usually the kinds of surprises I like, but every once in a while it happens.
What's the recent one you've been surprised by?
Well, honestly, this is embarrassing, but it was probably like 8 months ago, and it was some of the regulatory changes that were taking effect in Colorado. I was actually on a panel speaking on something else at this conference, and somebody brought it up, and I was like, "Hey, chat, what are they talking about?" And I was like, "Wow, yeah." And it was about regulations. Those are my least favorite things, and I, like most people on the planet, tend to not do things I don't like doing, and so I have a team that kind of keeps me informed on stuff like that I need to know about. But it was, yeah, regulatory.
We often say, like with metrics, there's a quality and a quantity counterbalance. There are leading indicators versus lagging indicators. We don't necessarily want reports. We want the thing that's going to tell us what's going to happen. And then there's the landmines. There's the things that's like, hey, we need to know about this, that the whole thing doesn't blow up. Is there anything that comes to mind when I say that of, oh yeah, these are a couple of ours that counterbalance, or this one's very much leading indicator, or this one is definitely landmine that we look out for? It's like, we usually don't see anything there, but when it does come up, it's, all eyes on this metric.
Oh my gosh, there are so many of those that can become landmines if you're not, kind of staying on top of things. I think those are usually, like for us, it's really typically related to like market changes more than anything else, and not preparing for market changes, or I mean, as big as like macro market changes, but usually when it impacts us, it's because our landmines are when we don't know that our competition has made certain changes that really impact, rents, things like that. And by the time you figure that out, you've lost, a month, and now you're climbing up from behind an 8-ball. And that is unfortunately one of those situations that does create like all eyes are on you. And it's a lot harder than if we would have just stayed on top of it. But I think for us, I mean, we track so many things that hopefully we don't miss that very often. And I think, we have a lot of new tools in place too for a lot of our KPIs, which has made it a lot easier. And also, I think we're still suffering a little bit from information overload, right? When there's so much information, it's sifting through it to figure out what really is important and what isn't important. Or, I mean, it's all important, but what are the priorities? And I think you have to be like you have to be able to pivot easily, right? Because it can change day after day. And so I think that taking that approach is really important.
Do you guys centralize all of that, or are you pulling different reports, different dashboards from from multiple softwares and tools?
Oh my gosh, centralize. I love that word. No, we don't. We use 33 different systems. Mhm. 33. Yes.
How?
Yeah, 33 different systems. And do we have our, like, is our BI dashboard set up and so pretty with all of those KPIs like rolled into a nice little data warehouse? No, it's not. Yeah,
Holy smokes.
yeah,
Okay. So you do
yeah.
track a lot.
Uh-huh. A lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's why it is so important to constantly like be in the question and making sure that, and again, that's why I do so much of my things by trends, because my trends are going to tell me where I need to spend the most time on my KPIs. Unfortunately, if it's a trend, I'm starting a little bit behind. But in the environment that we are living in right now, I don't have one central place where everything is tied up with a nice little bow. We're working on that, but it kind of like, I think it's constantly changing and evolving, the things that are important and the things that we track. And so every time it's like, okay, we're going to launch this, it's like, but wait a minute, we didn't capture these 9 things that are now moving the needle. And so it's the constant like push and pull.
Wow. You mentioned the competitors in your market potentially doing something that's disruptive. Do you guys look at like acquisitions within your market and take that into account in like a proactive way where you're like, hey, we know that there's a building down the street that's getting acquired. And so we know there's going to be some change there. Is there, anything in the air of if they're going to raise rents, if they're going to lower rents, what their plan is coming in?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, most people are probably coming in planning to raise rents. And so do you use that or do you monitor that to try to use it to your advantage?
We do. The other thing that we monitor both when we're going to buy a deal and then after we own the deal is what are the properties nearby that are about ready to go into foreclosure? Like which ones are having like debt coverage issues? Because that also can really impact what's going on at your asset. So yeah, we look at all of that on a very regular basis. Our asset management team, they're kind of looking at that, the debt side, and then we are looking really more at kind of the daily operations of the assets in our market. Are they like the renovations and the repositioning and things like that?
Okay. I still can't get over the 33 different
Don't you
tools.
love that I know that off the top of my head? Do you know why? Because it is a source of aggravation for me. But I will, like, the caveat to that is the reason we have 33 systems that we work within is that I don't believe in just layering on our property management software's next purchase. Like they're leasing like their marketing tool because they just bought this marketing company, or this LMS because they just bought this LMS, because like been there, done that. And I am all about like the best in class. I would much rather have like a couple of extra systems if I'm getting a best in class product for multiple reasons. Number one, I want best in class, but also because we don't have like this huge team, that while you have the challenges with training on like multiple systems, you also have systems that work. So I may not have single sign on, but my systems work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find a lot of value in that.
Interesting. Talk to me about your philosophy on SOPs.
Oh, I hate SOPs. I know. Ugh, SOPs. I want to be able to give you one piece of paper and I wanted to say, make a great decision. That's not reality, but that is exactly. So I fight the fight on SOPs all of the time because I really do. I believe we hire smart people and they should be able to make good business decisions. That said, not everybody likes to work within an environment where there are guardrails and a lot of decision making and empowerment. And so my team has been hitting me over the head with what feels like a baseball bat to really expand upon our SOPs. And so we have spent the last, 6 months expanding upon all of the SOPs that we have in our organization. With new
Have you seen
assets
any
and
benefit?
I suppose.
I mean,
Yeah.
because I think I would tend to agree with you more often than not that we can create really well-intentioned SOPs,
Yeah.
but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ever going to be used or that they're not going to immediately become irrelevant. And then
Right.
who's responsible for updating it. And so I'm curious, yeah, if you've seen some benefit from doing it, or if it validated your thesis.
Well, so we are only focusing on the ones that people, like our on-site teams, have asked for. Like,
Okay.
we really need an SOP for this.
Because they need clarity and they're
Because
unsure.
they need clarity and they're
Okay.
unsure. And so things like our delinquency process, I'm down for an SOP on that because we do have very structured expectations. Your rent is due on the 1st, it's late on the 2nd, and you get a notice on the 2nd because we need to give you a 30-day notice. So we don't give you a notice on the 1st as long as we're legally allowed to do that in your market, and all the steps that go around with that. So those types of processes, you can now find a very clear SOP on our SharePoint, but that's kind of where we're limiting it. I'm also really focused on looking at a lot of the documents that we provide. I don't know if this has ever been your experience, Ian, but so I just hired a trainer. It was one of our community directors. She's incredible. And I'm so excited because she knows all of our systems, and we had this like a big gap on how we train on our 33 systems. And so I just hired this trainer. So we have a recruiting department. They send out the offer letter to my trainer. She signs it. I read it. I provide like the 3 things, like here's your comp, here's your this, here's your that. They draft it, they send it, they sign it. I read it, and it's basically hate mail. There's not even like, oh my God, we're so excited to have you. It's if you do this and if you do that. And I mean, hate mail. And so, like, people. So we're redoing all of our employee facing communication as we speak right now because I don't believe in hate mail on
Is
day
that SOP?
one.
Is that SOP or is that guardrails though?
It's I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. Like, I just don't
We know
like
we're
it.
not in agreement with the result. How we get there is
Yeah.
still to be determined.
Yeah. And and it's because everyone is so like, oh, but like our employee housing agreement, like they need to move the second that they're terminated, 5 days, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, so hi, welcome to the company. We're so excited. Also, when we fire you, you have 5 days to leave. And don't forget to exude joy because that is one of our, core values. So I don't know. It's, the people business. It's a crazy one. Yeah.
How do you, in maybe other departments or scenarios, how do you go about creating clarity on the guardrails? When the guardrail is the proper solution,
Mm-hmm.
what's kind of your plan in explaining that to people, demonstrating it, writing it out?
That's a great question. So I think for me, and in that situation, like I really thought I had created clarity around my expectation, and I hadn't. Like that's on me that I didn't create those guardrails when it came to like this type of communication. Like one of the things that I didn't say, but I have since clarified, is when we are making changes to truly like to company policy or to a letter or like something that is really going to go to every one of my employees, I'm going to be signing off on it now because I want to make sure that we're balancing our responsibility to our organization on the legal side, and also what I'm trying to create in my culture and with my people, and not managing to the lowest common denominator. And so, it goes back to inspect what you expect. And shame on me for not looking at an offer letter last year. That's when it changed. But, lessons learned.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
actually heard some strategy around this, that the voice of the individual or of the organization or of the leader is actually going to become even more important in a chat GPT worlds where everybody's utilizing this, and also kind of backed by the idea that chat learns from input, and a lot of the
Yes.
input it's receiving
Yes.
is output that it created. So it's now learning from
Yes.
it. It's learning in an echo chamber. And
Yes.
so the copy and the voice is not progressing at the rate that they thought it would, because majority of the input now is from itself. So it's not actually
Right.
getting better. And so
Yeah.
it's going to become more important in the future for leaders to be able to be that voice, or it'll become a distinguishing or unique factor to a customer, a resident, or an
Yeah.
employee, because it'll sound so much different than everything else in the marketplace.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. I don't know how much or how much or how little you use chat. We use it quite a bit. We use chat and we use Claude. It just depends.
Mm-hmm.
So I use chat and I use Claude depending upon what it is I'm trying to accomplish. But
How do you
my
distinguish between which one?
oh my gosh, anything that's related to conversation, marketing, communication, chat. Anything that's related to data pull, Claude. Because Claude does such a great job with code and distilling information. And so like I have a company account so I can upload information, and it doesn't just like live in the chat world, which is nice. But I have my chat talks to me, and because you can set how they talk to you. So my chat communicates to me the way I communicate to chat. So he's a little sarcastic, he's funny, a little spicy. And so I'll ask chat something and he responds in my voice. And yeah, it makes me smile. But the truth of the matter is, like, you're exactly right. And I think it is so important in a chat world, like the prompts you put in. And you need to make sure that you're not losing your voice or what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
I love all of the resources that chat gives to us, because I do think that it is so efficient if you use it correctly and you really understand it. But you can already see some things that are changing that could look very different in a couple of years. So I agree 1,000% with what you're saying.
What's some of the other tools, systems of your 33 that are like your favorites or your go-tos?
Well, so my
If we whittled you
favorite.
down, I'm going to give you a Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
So top 4, no particular order.
Oh, literally my number one right now is all like the resources between chat and Claude, because
Okay.
that saves me so much time. My hands down favorite prop tech in the last, probably 10 years is this company called Hello Data, and they scrape the internet for market comp information. And so for me, again, I like to really focus on the things that move the needle, and occupancy is always one of them, which is all about people, product, price, promotion. And so knowing what's going on with your comps, this tool, I'll never forget. I had this property in Oakland, which is in lease up and challenging. I had spent like 10 hours going through comp information because what I had received was not what I had asked for. And so I just wanted to make sure that what I was looking at was accurate. And so it wasn't. So I had spent all of this time, and then 2 days later I hopped on a call for this like demo from this company. I was like, I tell you what, we're going to use a different property. Like, we're going to use the property I pick. We're going to use, and it was so I had them use my Oakland property, and what their numbers were within $20 of my numbers, and it took about 38 seconds. And I was like, sign me up. I'm in love. You are the prettiest thing I have seen in such a long time. And it has been a game changer in my world and in the world of my team. And so we've trained all of the managers And the expectation is you always know what's going on with your comps, because this is this data, it scrapes information that's out there. So there's no, there are all these like lawsuits with like these other companies and some of the way they get their pricing information, but this is all public information. So there's no concern about that. And I mean, it really is a game changer in the industry. That's my second favorite, I think, tool that I use. And then I would say the third, I spend a lot of time on Google Analytics these days. I love Google Analytics, and I love digging into the numbers. Part of that is I have many moons ago, I was on the marketing side. And so I have a love for marketing, but I think that that's so impactful for our real estate and really understanding. And I love analytics. So I would say that. And then really just with our property management software, I can listen to phone calls anytime. And so if I'm grouchy, I love to go and listen to phone calls because it just makes me so much grouchier.
Okay. Chat, Claude, Hello Data, Google Analytics, and listening to calls.
And property management software. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Awesome. Top 4. What do you hire for versus what are you willing to teach? So when you bring on a new team member, what batteries included attributes do they need to already have versus what things are you willing to teach, either because it's low-hanging fruit or maybe it's important because you're going to have to reteach it anyway because the way you guys do things, either culturally or process-wise, is just different?
I think it depends on the role, but in general, I hire for like attitude and personality, because you can, as long as you are, smart enough, I can teach you any of our 33 systems, right? But I can't teach you to be nice, and I can't teach you to have empathy, and I can't teach you to like inspire. I believe in leadership, this is so corny. In leadership, I think there are you have two options. Like, you can either create an environment where people want to move the mountain for you, or you can create an environment where people want to bury you under the mountain. And that's all about how you are as a leader. And if your people want to move the mountain for you because you invest in them, you inspire them, your results are going to be off the hook. If you create an environment where people don't buy into you as a leader and they want to bury you under the mountain, I don't care how good you are never going to win. And so I want to hire people that automatically people want to move the mountain for them. And it's all about, to me, like how you show up.
That's great. How do you know when you need more people versus you need more tools? We often see that kind of teeter-totter between payroll and software.
Well, I'm sure a management company my size we're not a profit center. Not a chance are we a profit center. When we hit about 9,500 units, then we will be at break even. But what I love is that my ownership group, when they opened the management company, they planned to open a management company when they had 5,000 units. They decided that they needed their own management company at 3,400 units because they needed to have the kind of the control. Control is not the right word. They needed to have people that were really truly engaged in the success of the operations and not conflicted. And so that piece has never been a concern on, adding people. I will say that every once in a while, and I try not to be I'm penny wise, pound foolish when it comes to people, because I don't know, I believe we can do it all. And so it's really just kind of stepping back and looking at what the issues are. Right now I'm hiring 4 positions. 4. That's a lot. My corporate team is only 24 people, and I'm adding 4 positions right now because my team they don't have work-life balance, and that's not okay. Every once in a while, you're going to have a long day or you're going to have to work a weekend, but it shouldn't be the norm. It should be every once in a while. And right now, most of my team is spending too much time on airplanes, too much time in the office because we need more people. And so I waited too long to solve that problem, and shame on me.
Is there a ratio you aim at, whether it's people to properties or VPs to regionals? Are there ratios that you're constantly trying to keep balanced?
Totally. So on site, to me, it's actually a lot easier on site. It's, typically like 1 per 100 units. And that is that's really easy. Then you layer in technology and the needs of the asset and things like that. With regionals, I've really had to change like my thought process around that because of our scale. So in every other previous job that I have had in my career, a regional manager would carry anywhere from 5 to 8 assets. And it would be dependent upon the difficulty of those assets and the locations of those assets. In this company here, because my scale is spread out, if I wanted one regional manager to have 5 assets, they'd be in 3 states or 3 separate markets on an airplane. And then then those teams wouldn't have the oversight that they need and the support, like more than anything else. And so for us, it truly is dependent upon like where the real estate is located and unit count. So typically as a regional manager, you're going to carry 2,500 units. My regional managers, with the exception of the one, they carry like 1,000 units, and which is its own set of issues because oftentimes, like at the regional level, right? You've been promoted within the last, 5 years or 2 years or, and your next step is a VP. And so on your resume, you're like, oh my gosh, unit count's important. Like, how many assets, my revenue numbers, all the little like bullets you're going to put on your resume, right? At my company, you're not going to have that. You're going to have, revenues that are probably a third, 20% of what you had in your last position. And instead of having 7 assets, you're going to have 2 or 4. And your portfolio size is going to be under 1,000 units. And so that's a really hard obstacle to overcome for me as we're building bench strength, because you want someone that is really excited about growth, but you also really, they have to believe in the story and that there is the potential of growth. And I don't sugarcoat anything. I believe in being
You seem like a big sugarcoater.
I know I do, right?
The impression I get from you.
Yeah, I know. If only, right? If only I could say what was on my mind, huh, Ian? And so, I'm really honest about what the challenges are. And so I think for us as an organization, building bench right now is the most difficult thing, because of our scale.
How the heck did you do the scale from, what'd you say, 4 to 89?
Yeah.
In the beginning? I mean, and you've done this a few times because you've also had to downscale, right? When you guys sold a bunch of stuff.
That is the hardest.
Fast?
That's the hardest. Downsizing to me, I mean, there's a little bit of opportunity in there when you downsize, but that's also, I think, the most like difficult. If I went back and did anything different about this company, about TICOM, I would have given me 2 more months of a runway. I mean, I took the job. I was literally driving from California to Texas, in August to launch this company, and we took over in October. And we are a 100% standalone company. Like, I have my own everything, my own benefits, my own accounting, everything. We don't share any resources with our parent organization. And so if you and I did this in 2017, we didn't have chat to help draft a lot of stuff. And so everything that we did, and it was me and 3 other people. I mean, for the first, me and 3 other people for 2.5 months built.
What were the roles of those 3 other people?
A facilities guy, a people person, like talent services, who had never done talent services before, but she knew people, and like an operator. I like to surround myself with people that have very different skill sets than me. Thank God for everyone around us. And I'm kind of like, I'm the visionary and they're the and this is the process, so that,
they're like, here's the SOP I created.
Exactly. And so two of those three people are literally like that. That's the side of the brain that they work out of. And
Mm-hmm.
then my facilities guy at the time was much more like I was. But I will tell you, like building an entire company that is going to go from 4 people to 89 people overnight, to get all those people onboarded into a payroll system and have benefit, and then provide, all of the resources to transition all of the accounting, like all of those things. I didn't have enough time to do it without my hair on fire, and my hair was on fire. And it probably took an extra year and a half before I was able to like step back and go, wow, it's probably now time to fix all the things I did wrong on day one.
What would you say to somebody that is trying to move quickly like that? Maybe not
as quickly.
Yeah, maybe not as quickly, but someone who recognizes that the speed or the urgency is a advantage in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think that it is an advantage in the marketplace. I think what I would say to anyone going through that is give yourself a break. And also, it's okay to make mistakes. Like that's how you learn. And if you are afraid to make mistakes, you're never going to get done what needs to be done. Instead, just know, hey, I'm going to make some mistakes and I'm going to fix them.
How much of your time do you schedule as like proactive versus leaving open for like the margin of reactive stuff? And then does that same philosophy trickle down to your people as well? Different role per role?
Different per role. I'm a 60-40. So I schedule like 60% of my week is already scheduled out. 40% of my week is wide open. And I will tell you, I have not had a week, and God only knows how long, where I have had any time that hasn't been taken up with one thing or another. But I'm 60-40. I also, in that 60%, I always schedule at least an hour every week solely for strategy. Now, what I did just recently hear from someone was that I should schedule 1 hour a week for like me time, like 1 hour a week to do nothing but something for me. I can't imagine that.
Are you saying like, you're saying like on the personal side, not like thinking time?
No, I'm saying like for like thinking time, but doing something like for me that's just like not necessarily sitting in front of a computer, maybe sitting outside under a tree and I don't know, watching a podcast or
change your environment a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so I liked that. I can't imagine, but I think that's probably really good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, taking care of yourself, that's probably a good spot to start.
Yeah. Like, and what do you do?
Okay, so 60-40, and do you encourage that for your team as well?
I do, but I also believe, so I don't ever want to tell my team how they need to spend their time. I believe in modeling the behavior and asking questions. And so I don't say like, hey, you should spend your time like this. Instead, it's during our one-on-ones. Okay, like walk me through your week. Like what worked, what didn't work. Oh my gosh, what's going on at this property? Okay, how are you going to approach it? And, things like that. And then asking questions around like, okay, so how's your team spending time? Just making sure that people are setting aside some time for strategy and really making sure that the priorities are what they're focused on. But I don't want to have to tell them like, because this is what works for me. And I will tell you, I see a lot of people that work very differently than I do. And that's what works for them. And I really want to hire people that are thinkers and, can figure that piece of it out on their own.
How important do you think self-awareness is in that?
Oh my God, it's so important. Yeah, it's so important. And we have a lot of conversations. Like my entire team, I will say that's one thing. That's probably my biggest gift as a leader is like holding the mirror up and then helping other people hold the mirror up. And I think I just don't think there's anything more important than that, right? That's how you change. That's how you grow. That's how you like step back and refocus. That's how you acknowledge like, oh, why did I do that? And then that's how you improve. So that's really important.
Yeah. I know that there's recent studies that say that the self-awareness is starting to become the like leading indicator for good leaders. That IQ has actually moved down the rung,
Hmm.
and that EQ and SQ is the biggest indicator for strong leadership in an organization.
1,000%.
Andrew, who does a lot of work with us, he often says it's his definition. He says a good leader has the ability to read a room and also move a room.
Hmm.
And so it's that awareness piece built in and knowing how you impact a room when you come in and read the room, but then also being able to move it in a direction and inspire and
Yeah.
get people to go in a different direction than maybe where they were initially intending to.
Oh, it's so important. And that all ties back to how you get people to move the mountain for you,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't it? I mean, it's all part of that same conversation.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Last couple of questions for you, and we'll wrap up here because I know we're way over, but I super appreciate your time.
Oh my God, this has been so fun.
Okay. You've been in the industry a while.
Oh my God, are you
Your words,
calling me
not
a
mine. No,
thousand?
no, I already had it loaded. Your words, not
Oh
mine.
my God. Okay.
You've been
Yes.
doing this for a while, you said,
Yeah.
according to you.
Yeah.
What's changed and what's stayed the same? Like, what are the basics, the fundamentals that you could say, like, this isn't going to change going forward? And
Yeah.
what are the things that have changed in an innovative way that maybe people need to get up to speed or catch up on?
So I think property management in general, like we're super like slow adopters to just about everything. And so that has been so interesting. Like just like throughout my career, I think you had mentioned like earlier when we were talking, somebody when he like got into the business, I don't know, whatever. There was no technology basically. When I
Mm-hmm.
got into the business, we worked on ledger cards. Like literally ledger cards. There were no computers. It's a very different business than it was back then. I think the things that will always stay the same, even with like the AI world, it's still like customer service and engagement. Like I don't like talking to people like outside of work. Like I would much rather get all of my information like through a text message. I don't talk on the phone to people
Okay.
because I am literally on the phone all day long. And
Mm.
so I love being able to communicate and get my information on my phone. That said, I'm wanting to change my flight. I'm on American Airlines like agent, agent, agent. Oh, and I want to talk to someone because I want someone just to help me. And I think in our world, we're so focused on trying to like replace that piece with like chat bots, and I just don't know that that's ever going to like fully replace the human touch and just like that engagement. So customer service to me is really important, and maybe it is about training your AI bots to have the right voice so that they are providing the right level of customer service. Like in 5 years, we're going to be like, oh my God, remember when you were like, people won't ever be replaced. But I think that customer service and just like the basic foundation of what we do, caring about people. My business is people's homes. They live in at my business. It's not like I'm not a retail store or a
Mm.
bank. Like these are people's homes, and there's always going to be sensitivity around the fact that we're taking care of your home. We're taking care of where you raise your children, or where you take care of your mother, or where you make out with your lover. I mean, these are your homes. And it's really important. And so I think that people piece is really important. But I think that where we're headed, like I think you still have to have like training and trust, right? Like for your
Mm.
teams, training and trust and recognition and like all of the things that are important for like building your strong teams. I think that we need to get away from the we've always done it this way. And I think just really letting technology that's ready, like roll that out, the technology that's ready, but not being afraid, like pivot quickly. Like,
Mm.
try
Okay.
it, doesn't work, pivot quickly. But I think that there are just like two like completely different buckets. And I think that's where the people that are going to stay successful are really going to invest in both of those buckets. The people side and the technology side, and what's going to make it easier for the people on the people side so they can focus on the things that are really important.
What do you think is going to be the biggest opportunities for impact innovation over the next 5 years?
Oh my gosh, I think it's a 2-year window, not a 5-year window.
Okay.
God, it's so wild to me how fast everything is changing and the cool stuff that is like almost ready. Like if I had a prop tech business, I would be so focused on building my revenue to, $12 million and selling it for 7 times revenue. But I also would know that if I don't get that done in the next 18 months, that window's going to close very quickly.
Mm.
And I think that's it. Like, I think the window is, I think we're just at a place right now where things are going to change very quickly. I think the landscape, I don't think we even know what the landscape's going to look like. I think we just know it's going to be different. Like where marketing is going to be in. Think about where marketing is today, where it was 6 months ago, and then where it's going to be in 6 months. Communication, all of those things. I just think it's changing really quickly, and we just need to hold on tight.
This is the part you're good at.
It's the part I love. This is what I love. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, last question for you. What's the vision or the future for TI communities as a whole? Your vision for what you want it to be, TI in general? Where's this thing going?
That's a great question. So when I started the company, the goal was you'll be at 25,000 units in 5 years, and then we really want to get to 40. And which made sense.
You were like, cakewalk, done that before.
Yeah, so easy. But then 2022 happened, and the world, it didn't make any sense for our fund to, for us to find a new capital source. Highest values, lowest interest rates. So we sold. And then we kind of started that hamster wheel again. I would like to get the company to 25,000 units because it's a lot easier to run 25,000 units than it is to run 10,000 units or 5,000 units, because you have scale and efficiencies and you have support systems. It's very difficult to run a company with the scale that we have today. And so what I see for the organization is really truly figuring it out, and is that, outsourcing management in markets where it doesn't make sense, and really focusing on all of the value that we bring in markets where it does make sense for us to continue to manage. Does it make sense to add a bunch of people so that everything that Bobby was set out to accomplish, we accomplish by just throwing a ton of people in these markets? That might make sense. I think for me, it's really about just exploring all the opportunities, but ensuring that the company I created is the company I created, and that we are who we say we are. And that is that we value people. And that would be great. That's the most important thing to me. That said, I am 1,000 years old, and I am not going to work until I am 70 years old. And so at the same time that I'm continuing to push really hard on this company and moving it forward, I'm also really working on my backup plan, and hiring this next VP I'm going to hire is going to be someone that if I was hit by a bus tomorrow could step right into my role. And, in a couple of years when I'm ready to put my hat down, that he or she is going to continue to lead this company in excellence. That's the thing about starting your own company. This just as well. There's a lot of emotional engagement. You work really hard and you want to make sure that your people are really well taken care of, but that you're delivering on everything that you said you were going to deliver on. Mm-hmm. And so just making sure that is teed up for success.
Very well said. Christine, thank you so much for your time. You've been super generous. Really appreciate your insights. This has been probably one of the best conversations we've had, and just really appreciate you sharing all of your wealth of knowledge and
thanks.
taking the time to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and show us how the heck you go at this pace with this many people and this many units.
That's a lot of filters. Ian, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. And I love what you're like, I just love what you're doing. And I think it's people like you that make people like me so much better. And I appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. We'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds good.
Holy cow, that was jam packed. Hopefully, you got a ton of insight out of that. And if you have any further questions or you want to have a conversation around KPIs, leadership development, operations just in general, you can go to therevopscoach.com or click one of the links down below to go to REI Boss or even Ops Academy.